Yo, is that Wario? Actually, no. No. That's Wario World.
Excellent!
Wario World. Now, that's a game that I would say is like one of my favorites. I'm not even 100% sure why. It's probably just like a nostalgia bias, but like the sound effects, the visuals, a lot of it is just so engraved in my brain that I don't think I'm just gonna ever forget about the experiences that I had playing this game. After Mario Land 2, where Wario was the main antagonist, the following games were called
Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3.
So, following from that, the Wario Land series was made. In the modern age now, people think about WarioWare, which started just a little bit before Wario World came out. So, they tried to jump that gap from Wario Land to a first-time 3D platformer for the Wario series. And then, before that, they were also diving into that micro games series and testing the waters there to see how it was. Obviously, WarioWare was a hit, and they continued that till to this day. Now, Wario World is the first 3D platformer first and only 3D platformer for the Wario games. The closest thing they had before that was like Wario Land for the Virtual Boy.
The diabolical one has gone 3D.
And yeah, I'm sorry Nintendo, that's not 3D. That's as much as you want it to be. Those are layers. Now, like, if you want an example, like, look at Sora. Look at Sora. Guy has so many layers on him, but he's still two-dimensional. But then we got Wario World here. Now that's an authentic, certified 3D platformer. And if I recall, it actually got the Nintendo Player's Choice upgraded box with the gold trim on it. So it has some. Wario World has some street cred. That's all I'm trying to say. It has street cred. Now, the first thing you're gonna notice when playing this game is like, it's published by Nintendo, but it actually is developed by a company called Treasure, and it wasn't until I started making this video that it actually just clicked into my head like, damn, that's such a fitting name for a Wario game. Treasure is known for making platformers, shooters, and other action-based games. One of the most popular games being Gunstar Heroes. There was two producers for this game. One was Masato Maegawa, who was the president of Treasure, and then the other was Takahiro Izushi. Takahiro was known for being involved in multiple classic Pokemon games, Wario games, and Legend of Starfleet, just to name a few. Wario World also had two directors, one being Hitoshi Yamagami, another Nintendo member who has worked on early Nintendo puzzle games, such as Dr. Mario, Yoshi's Cookie, and Kirby's Super Star Stacker. The second being Koichi Kimura, who is from Treasure and directed 3 games: Wario World, Silhouette Mirage, and Stretch Panic. Now, I want to stick a note for that game just because it's going to come to a climax of the video later. As for the music, we have composers Norio Hanzawa and Minako Hamano. Hamano was involved in other games from Nintendo, while Hanzawa seemed to have composed for a good amount of Treasure games, including the aforementioned Stretch Panic. Well, with the credits out of the way, I think we can basically get to the story. It's nothing deep. It's weird, and you just gotta accept it. Wario games before this were strange, and Treasure definitely cranked the strange to the maximum, I think. I've seen all the other Wario games, and they're weird, and they get odd. This game gets odd. We start in Wario's luxurious castle where he's chilling on his throne, and he's so entertained by his riches he can't help but laugh. Which honestly, like, who can't relate to that? But regardless with how funny the money was, Wario didn't know he collected a treasure chest that had an evil black jewel. The jewel awakens and transforms Wario's castle into a new realm, or at least teleports Wario to a new world. It's not really clear what happens, and it's not really important. But it turns his treasure into evil creatures. After this, Wario's then dropped into the hub, which leads to 4 different worlds, and each world having 2 levels and a boss room. And that's it. We get some small things during the game that adds to the story, but there's no real story, so don't even focus on that.
Game sucks!
Like, this being Wario's first 3D outing, they tried to capture the Wario games at that point and adapt it into 3D. This is an action collectathon 3D platformer with puzzle sections. Wario feels fairly slippery sometimes, making you feel like he shouldn't make some maneuvers, but the game does register momentum. The faster Wario goes, the longer his jumps can go. But the problem is, you can't get Wario to that speed. There's normally things in the game where it'll assist him to reach that speed, and thus him getting that longer jump. I wish they had something where he can control that a little bit better. Along with his greasy gameplay, Wario comes with like a nice set of moves. First off, he can punch, which the Wikipedia specifies that this is the first time he's learned this technique. So this man went 10 to 11 years not knowing how to throw a fist. Did you know Wario was in a horrible motorbike accident in his 20s? Thankfully, the therapy was able to get his arms moving again, but you can see the substantial brain damage through his eyes still. This has also caused damage to his lower body, thus making him stay in a perpetual bow-legged stance at all times. Along with the groundbreaking move that is the punch, he also has a 3-piece combo, as well as a ground pound, and his signature shoulder charge. Now, in this game, the shoulder charge can be cancelled into a long jump. I think it's called the corkscrew dive. No, my bad. It's called the corkscrew conk. I don't like the word conk. I've never liked the word conk. But, like, as much as I like the corkscrew conk, I wish they could have done something a little bit different for that long jump option. Like, as I was saying, Wario gets momentum in this game. It's just not used conveniently. It's only when you get, like, a slope or get, like, jabbed off of a pole that you're on top of. I wish, like, that shoulder charge could lead into, like, aiding with that momentum in the jump. But at least the corkscrew conk can do damage. Along with that, Wario comes with a new ability in this game. And with the grace of Dong Bongo, he can do hyper suction. So, like, this move is what I think inspired the Chomp from Super Smash Bros. But also, there's an inhale version of the Chomp Neutral B in Wii U as a custom move for Wario. So that one probably is more akin to this one. And, like, when this happened, when I was a kid and I played this game for the first time, I was really confused. Now, function-wise, I can see why they added this to Wario's kit. This being a 3D platformer, his coins don't just float around, they fall to the ground, you defeat enemies, you break open chests, they just scatter everywhere. So having this inhale option can collect them a lot faster before they disappear. Other than this, Wario also has these mad moves. Mad moves is when you pick up an enemy. They're small enemies that just explode into coins when they hit the ground, but anything larger than that, they actually will get, like, dizzy, knocked to the ground, and then you get the option to actually pick them up, or even pick up projectiles thrown by enemies. And when in this, you have 3 options of moves you can do called Mad Moves. One is called the Mega Toss, where Wario literally just yeets the enemy. You can charge it for a stronger hit and to go further, but you'll often be using this to hit buttons or switches on the walls. The second move is called the Pile Driver. It's when Wario picks him up and jumps in the air, and then while pile driving the guy on the ground. It's pretty straightforward. And finally is the Swing Ding, which is basically ripped right out of Mario 64, where Mario grabs Bowser and swings him around. In this, you'll rotate the joystick. I remember getting, like, blisters on my palm off of that one. And you will use this to, like, rotate, like, gears, which isn't really used as often. or like unscrew things on the ground. Well, actually, no. You know what? Yeah, it is used pretty often. It's often enough. You will find that the platforming and puzzles take advantage of just about all of Wario's moves and the slippery momentumness that he has. If someone never played this and did today, I can totally see this game feeling weird to control. But through playing this with my wife and others, we came to the conclusion that it does indeed feel odd, but the gameplay and world takes this game feel into consideration. Thus the final product complements each other. For the most part, anytime you fall or get hit, it's not really the game's fault. You have full control. On occasion though, the camera can be iffy to place, but I find this only happening in some of the smaller puzzle rooms. And that basically covers the moveset. God knows that I could talk about a 2003 Nintendo platformer's moveset for about 40 minutes, but I do not want to do that, so we're going to get straight to the actual game now. When you start the game, you're dropped into Treasure Square. Here you can see all the gates for all the worlds. Excitement Central, Spooktastic World, Thrillsville, and Sparkle Land. Also attached to the Treasure Square courtyard is an area where the treasure chest that holds the Black Jewel is. Every world boss holds a key to unlock this chest. At the beginning of the game, only Excitement Central is open, therefore that is the first place you're going to be going. Even though every level has their own theme, you're going to be doing very similar things throughout the game. Besides a boss at the end of the world, every level itself has its own mini-boss at the very end. To unlock them, you have to collect these red diamonds throughout the puzzle rooms. These puzzle rooms, there's two different versions that you will encounter. There's going to be these puzzles that are mainly just a test of your platforming abilities, which is actually the ones that I really enjoy. And the other one is you're in a closed off area and just having to use some of your brain power to solve some puzzles with moving blocks, switches, breaking things. It's not too complicated. Along with the red diamonds in there, you will be also collecting these golden statue fragments. Each level has a set of these golden statues, and when you collect all of them, it builds a Wario statue on the outside of the entrance of the world. For each statue you complete, Wario gets half a heart added to his maximum health. You don't only find those golden pieces in those puzzle areas, you can also find them scattered throughout the level as well. Which then leads to the other thing you can find. Your treasure! You'll find these color-coded buttons throughout the level, as well as corresponding plates with a W on it. When you hit the button, the matching colored plate will then have a treasure chest appear on it. Your job then is just to go find the plate, break the chest, and get your treasure. And if you want to keep track of all the collectibles you're getting, and to see if you missed any, you can just hit pause and it shows you right in the menu. And this is one of those, these are one of the things that I remember so fondly about this game, is the music from the pause screen. It's just like Wario taunting you the entire time. If you wait 50 minutes while he's chanting, Wario will actually stop and then just apologize and then stop chanting for the rest of the time you're paused. I don't know about you guys, but I think this is some sort of deep Wario character development that everyone just overlooked. Oh, and actually, if you look at the pause menu right now, there's something there that I forgot to mention. Along with all the other treasure and stuff like that that you're going to be getting, you will also be collecting these, like, Keebler elf things.
What?
They honestly look like Snap, Crackle, and Pop, or like the forest sprites from, like, Harvest Moon. But no, these are called Spritelings. Every time you collect a Spriteling, they have a comment to make about the level or the boss. They can even give you instructions about the controls. They're the closest thing you're going to get to a tutorial in this game. And that's something I really appreciate as well. This game doesn't really hold your hand. It like, you have everything at your disposal. And it just says, Go get him. In the first level, Greenhorn Forest, when Wario's walking by, you could start hearing them shouting for help from a distance. To this day, I could be minding my own business, and then all of a sudden I hear... And it happens at the most random of moments. I do not know why this sound just pops in. There's also this other sound effect where Wario will punch something, but it, like, makes this error or cancel sound of some sort, but it sounds like cash, like the cha-ching sound, but really high-pitched. To me, that's what it sounds like. But that also pops into my head at random points too, when if I see something colliding. I don't know. This is unhealthy. And one thing I would like to say about this level is, this is what I think about when I think about Wario game music. It even has a remix in that Mario DDR Gamecube game. It's like how you would think of Super Mario Brothers World 1-1 music is what you think about when you think about Mario game music. This is what I think about when I think about Wario games. I think it's pretty good to go into the levels now. I already started talking about Greenhorn Forest. It's a fantastic level. There you go. No, Greenhorn Forest and the second level, Greenhorn Ruins, are great first levels for this game. Even though we're playing in the third dimension now, the first level is fairly linear. That doesn't stop the stages from having some depth. You know? Unlike Sora.
Alone? I'm worthless.
The first level alone, you're going to be shown that some levels are going to have some verticality. Even though the main level is just going right to the end, you're going to find these points where you can climb up a ladder, find these platforms, you can go left, you can go right. There's two different paths you can take up top. They're just to lead you to secrets, and the main path is still what leads to the end of the level, but there's still small secrets that you're going to see like, oh, I'm going to have to look around when I play these levels. The second level, you're going to be going up and around and loops, and there's going to be deeper areas that you can go into. And the same thing, but in a smaller portion for the first level as well. You could be going underneath the mountain, and then you're going to be hitting a spring, and then going on top of it to find any secrets on the way back, as you're still progressing to the right. These levels do a very good job with showing these branching paths, but not taking you so far out you forget where you're going. And as you progress through the game, these branching paths get more elaborate, they get a little longer, and you'll get to these points where there's a hole in the ground, and you know when you jump down there, you most likely won't be able to come back out. So it becomes this thing of like, maybe I should go back there and take that other pathway and see whatever treasures I get out of it, then come back. Because that's one of the things in this game is, you can collect everything in one go. But if you jump into that hole where you can't jump back, then you will have to get back to the beginning of the level to try and get everything you missed. And that's another thing. In the very first level, it actually shows you this. There's this ball with balloons on it at the very end of the level, right next to this effigy thing that you have to put all the red diamonds on to fight the level boss. You climb onto that ball with the balloons, it brings you all the way back to the beginning of the level. So you don't have to leave the level and come back. So you could just keep going until you get all the items. The collectibles in the first level shows you everything you need to know for the rest of the game. Now, you can imagine, I already described, you have to hit the button to get the treasure to appear on the plate. Now, you can imagine how elaborate they can do this. They can have a button all the way at the end of the level and then maybe have it appear previously, or vice versa, or something like that, right? Maybe it's a button high up top and then the treasure appears somewhere down low. There's a lot of variety that they can do with this. And the thing that they show at the very beginning of the game is the switch and the plate right beside each other. This is a very good way to show the player what the plate actually does when you hit the switch. So then they can understand later on when they see a lonely switch, they're like, oh, there has to be a treasure nearby. Another great thing that these first levels do is they give you like a safe area for platforming. There won't really be a pit or anywhere to fall down where you can't come back. So you can keep trying and get used to Wario's jumping abilities, his climbing abilities, because he can cling to some surfaces. And it's just a really good way to test out the gameplay. The first level also introduces how Wario dies. Or lack thereof dying. Right before you get to the boss effigy, there's these two rope bridges, right? And when Wario goes on one, it just breaks. Unless you're a speedrunning genius like myself. But I'm not really a speedrunning genius. But I got some speedrunning geniuses to help me at the end of this video, which I got some things to tell you guys. When you fall down this bridge, because you're not going to expect it, being new to the game, right? You're just going to fall down, and you go to the pit, and you're like, oh, I died. Well, I quit. But Wario never quit. So when Wario falls down in the pit, he's in like this dark, damp, like wet place with small platforms. And what happens here is all these layouts of this pit area is different in every world. And there's these ghost unicorn things. They're called Unithorns. And their point is to use their point and stab Wario off and get him wet. But Wario doesn't like being wet down here. Only up top. So when he's wet down there, he drops his gold. And he gets pissed. And then Wario will have to punch these blocks and find an escape spring to get out. And that's how he doesn't die. That's it. So this part of the level introduces you to the fact that Wario, when he falls in a pit, he's not just going to die or take damage. He just goes down there and he loses coins. And in fact, when Wario dies in this game, there's no lives. You just need to get gold out of your bag and pay the Grim Reaper, and he resurrects you. Not really the Grim Reaper, but like, Wario doesn't die. He just needs to pay his debts, and he comes back to life. Kind of like in Mario Odyssey. As you might have already seen in some of the gameplay here, the game is pretty action-packed for a platformer. And these enemies tend to swarm in, kind of like a mini Dynasties Warriors game. That's always how I thought about it. Because there'd be a ton of mini enemies that just start going around Wario. But Wario is so, like, built to fight in this that you can just swing a larger enemy and, like, knock down a whole bunch of tiny ones. Or grab an item, or, like, ground pound, or, like... There's a lot of things Wario can do to knock them all away. Most of these battles aren't really mandatory, and you can just skip by them. The times where Wario will be stuck to fight is with these impediments. Wikipedia calls them impediments, but it's like you'll be stuck in a dome and you have to fight waves of enemies, or fight these weird crystal guys, or even like these stage-specific blockers, like this face on the door. I don't even got their names. Let me get their names. I'll run through these, but like there's be like a Bone Fist enemy. The crystal guys appear frequently throughout the game. There's this weird clown force field. Don't get me started with the Angler Mangler or the Tree Freak or Terrible Poor Trait, which I also gotta say a lot of people have. And lastly, the Stone Cold statue. What are you? Besides like introducing impediments in the second level, which also has like these weird walls with faces. Old red mug. Okay. These two Greenhorn levels are in Excitement Central. But the next level, Spooktastic World, also has great theming in my opinion. The first level in this world is Horror Manor. After you pass through the cemetery, you go down this like narrow mountainy area and you enter these gates, and then you get to the manor itself with another building attached to it. And then you go inside it after breaking through this lion door thing, and that already is showing more depth to what I was expecting from this game. And it tells a little bit of a story. And then you get to a cellar area, right? And then you jump into this hole. And this is what I was talking about beforehand, where like you can't get back from when you jump to these deep areas. And this shows so much more depth to what this level is. And then you get to this weird like partially watery factory-esque weird place, which I want to know the story behind this. Are they torturing people down here? Like, what are they doing? What is the point of this place? But I know when they're making it, they just thought like, oh, this fits. But like, I want a deeper concept of this. What was going on here? And following this level, you go to Wonky Circus, which when I was younger, I'm like, why is there a circus attached to this horror level, right? Like this spooky level. Why is there a circus in Spooktastic Land? It's a circus. Circus are spooky. And why is there an electric clown fence? What is an electric clown? You have to throw clowns at the fence. That is also already a clown. And this level also shows some crazy depth and like how much verticality you get in the level. There's this chasing sequence of like you're getting chased by these elephants, and then you get hit by giant pies, and then you get to like this area where it's like almost like there's homes around. And again, I would like to know more about the economics in this place. And after Spooktastic Land or World, whatever it's called, we go to Thrillsville. And what's more thrilling than a shivering mountain? And then a sunny beanstalk. This always confused me. This world is icy, green, and lava. Like, those are some generic world archetypes and platformers, like the lava world, the ice world. But I don't know why I'm completely fine with it being all mixed up. I like that. Shivering Mountain is actually a really wonderfully themed level. It's more than just like an ice level. This level is like heavily like Christmas themed, and I wasn't really expecting that. Just because snow level doesn't equal Christmas level, but like there's straight up just some Christmas trees here, and I just thought they were really pretty. And like the way that Wario traverses some areas here is like this is when I realized that Wario has some sort of momentum going on in the game. Now, I'm not like some video game physicist or programmer, but I can recognize that there's some sort of property Wario has here with getting momentum. In some puzzle areas where there be like Wario will be on a pole and it jabs out, and Wario has to jump or let go at a certain time, and he keeps that momentum of that jab. And there's something there, and I feel like someone can like manipulate it somehow. But getting Wario to actually manipulate it the way you want it to isn't really intuitive, I guess. But this also is the first and really only level that could drive me crazy. I could beat this level in maybe, I don't know, like 20 minutes, collecting everything. But there's this one part where it can literally make it an hour for me. And it's this one area where you're going down the icy slope and you have to grab this golden statue piece. But you can't see it until you're down the hill. And you can't really control yourself very well left and right, or like forward and back from the camera angle we're in. So I keep missing this golden statue, and it's just so aggravating. But that's the worst thing I gotta say about this game. That one moment is the most annoying thing that you're probably gonna do. The next level here is Beanstalk Way. Beanstalk Way is I wouldn't say it's a forgettable level. I really like the verticality in here and like the platforming on the leaves. But it's not one that really screams out to me. A lot of fun parts on here. I do love this enemy that shows up here. He's like a flying magnet. And when you beat him up and you throw him against these metal plate things on the walls, the magnet will stick to it, and then it becomes a platform. And then it leads to the last two levels. We have Sparkling Land. I had to look it up because I forgot the name of it. Sparkling Land. That's the last world. Illuminati. Top Hat. Pirate Ship. Sparkle Land. We got Mirror Mansion, which in itself is a fantastic level.
Out in Tokyo, see me pulling up on May. Roll the window down, high soccer with the hey. All your friends know the loop, it's a gang thing. She gon' let me see the full bus, cause the chain.
In this level, there's a gimmick where there's a mirror on the back. Mirror Reaction. And there's points in the level where Wario will be blocked off. You can't see him, and you'll have to use the reflection on the back to navigate Wario. And there's some enemies that are only visible on the mirror. In the last level, Pecan Sands. Really good desert level. Couple mysterious things about this level, I could say too. This level appeared in the original trailer for this game, and the enemies that appeared on it were these mummy guys. They're still mummies. They're still mummies and like themed on this level now, but they were like different shapes back then. And you can still see some footage right here, some screenshots, and it just makes me wonder, like, how much different is this level? Especially when there's this one section here where it looks like there's a hidden pathway behind this hallway here, but Wario can't go in it. There's like this invisible wall. Now, I took my action replay and I played around on this game after I beat it, just to see some things that might be hidden. And I tried to make my way in there. There's absolutely nothing. Why is it there? I want to know what was this for? Was there a purpose? Was there something that was canceled when they were trying to make something cool there? But I honestly, I would love to know why was that there? This is where you meet this guy. This is where you meet this guy. Also, there's the hardest platforming puzzle room. I love this. I love this room. I love this platforming one. It's very satisfying to run through, especially when you're like, you already know where everything is, and you're like jumping off camera just because you know where it is, and it just becomes this rhythm, and it's really satisfying. It's really satisfying, especially with the cling mechanics that Wario has. What you guys might have noticed is that there's only 8 levels in this game. That's not a lot at all. But for me, when I was playing, I wasn't using no strategy guide or anything. At the first time I played it, the very first time, I spent like an hour on each level, yeah. And like I maybe did a level a day, and it felt really fulfilling to me. Sure, after beating the game, finding everything was easy afterwards, and the game really showed how short it was at that point. But you're also looking at somebody who would play Kirby's Dream Land repeatedly. A short game to me isn't a bad game. Would I want there to be more? Yes, because I did love what I had. But did it make what I had a bad time? No. No, it did not. Did I feel like it was a waste of money? No. The experience and like the different worlds that it took me, the questions that I had when I saw these little simple theming things in the background, like these cabins, tombstones to this manor with like this weird factory underneath. No, it made me wonder more about this world. Which then leads to one of my favorite things that this game has. The enemies. It's unfortunate that, story-wise, these enemies, creatures, whatever, they're actually just Wario's Gold manifested into a creature. So they don't got no lore behind them or these interesting backstories. But just their aesthetic and the ideas that these developers came up with, it's just really neat to me. There's the standard enemies that are in every single level. They come in different skins that are themed around what level they're in. Greenhorn Forest goes with the more dinosaur aesthetic, and when you go to Horror Manor, they're like more bones or skeletons. And then Wonky Circus, they're now clown themed. The tiny little dino guys aren't dinosaurs anymore, they're just straight up clowns. The pterodactyl is now this pigeon with a hat. And then they turn into snowmen in the ice level, like wolves and bears in the Beanstalk Way. Don't ask me what they are in Mirror Mansion. Don't know what's happening with the bird with the bag on his head. Or the dog? Is this Jason Voorhees? But then every level also has their own original enemies. And on top of that, every single level has their own personal boss. Okay, for the first Greenhorn levels, Greenhorn Forest has Green Fist, and Greenhorn Ruins has the Sandworm. And these two bosses are really well and complementary to one another for the beginning of the game. Going from like trampling a strolling stew from Mario Sunshine to this Frankenstein-looking guy? I did not know how to think. There's something about the enemies in this game that felt even more different than a standard Wario game to me. So Green Fist, fantastic beginning. Him and the Sandworm, which is the second boss for Greenhorn Ruins, are fantastic enemies or bosses to show you what bosses are going to be like in this game. They show you how the mechanics are going to work, where there's some points where they're going to be impervious to attacks. You have to wait for the opening. Green Fist, you can do mad moves on, but while Sandworm is stuck to the ground and you can't pick him up, you can approach these bosses in different ways and see that they have different results. So it really adds, like, replay value and, like, fighting these bosses again. Just fighting these bosses alone is really fun, in my opinion. After you beat Green Fist and Sandworm, what do you get? Dynamite! What? Remember when I mentioned that I wish that there was, like, some lore behind these? Who is this? They have a whole castle. Oh yeah, that's one thing. Like, Greenhorn Forest was a forest. Greenhorn Ruin was like this dilapidated ruins in the forest. And then you get to a straight up castle. So I in my brain, I'm like, you're venturing through a forest which leads to this castle that's owned by this dinosaur with a stretchy tongue, with a ring, and with a thong. This is what really, like, hit the nail on the head of me wanting to understand what was happening here. I used to be big on Game Grumps when I was in high school, and they started playing a game called Stretch Panic. Wait a minute. That sounds familiar. The second being Koichi Kimura, who is from Treasure and directed 3 games: Wario World, Silhouette Mirage, and Stretch Panic. Now, I want to stick a note for that game just because it's going to come to a climax of the video later. Okay, so in Stretch Panic, you stretch things, but
What have I done?
like, there's enemies in this game, and that's one of the main things in this game. The main gimmick of this game is, like, you go through this level, and there's these busty women walking around, but the main thing in these levels was actually the boss fight itself. It had, like, a focus on those boss fights. They put a lot of heart in these boss characters, and some of the shapes and the way that the bosses are in Stretch Panic are very similar to bosses in this game. From the pronounced lips, big heads, just like these exaggerated features. Only difference here is Dynamite doesn't have a rack. This even branches off into Silhouette Mirage. There's this enemy here, I've never played the game, but I can see, is this big guy with, like, a Jason Voorhees mask that's riding in a car. Now, he looks awfully like those large enemies with the clubs that are in Mir Mansion. I'm not too aware of, like, the rest of Treasure's catalog of games, but the fact that these 2 other games have, like, some aesthetic similarities to their own original characters in Wario World, I really feel like Kimura and, like, the other art designers in this game have a certain direction that they really like to go with. And I think putting that spin on Wario really was appropriate. These characters still kind of feel like they could fit in the Mario universe, in my opinion. Like, Mean MC? This guy? You telling me that's not Luigi? That's not English Luigi? Another boss you get here is Brawl Doll from Horror Manor. Brawl Doll here actually really reminds me of Chauncey from Luigi's Mansion. And this could be, like, the fact that it's like a weird floating baby thing that's far away from the camera, going doing its stupid baby things, and then, like, it shoots these lasers at you that kind of, like, go off to the ground, they stop, and then they go straight. It kind of reminds me of the rocking horses that Chauncey will throw at you, or, like, send at you in Luigi's Mansion. I really don't know if that was intentional. I like to think it was. Probably just a coincidence. But regardless, it's cool. And the next boss would be Clown Around, which is really weird. The head, that's not the bad guy. That's a bomb. That's a bomb on his head. Big Lip Boy. It's a Stretch Panda character. Don't you lie to me. I just watched some speedrunners recently, which I have a comment to say about speedrunning later on. But they showed this method that I had no idea you could do, and it's amazing. It's hard for me to explain. Like if you pile drive him where he is, he'll run away from you and throw a bomb at you. But if you throw him on the other side, he'll come to you and then throw the bomb away from you. You gotta trick him. You gotta trick him. And then after this, you fight Dual Dragon, the world boss. A pretty neat boss. You gotta knock one out, have them attack the other one that gets unconscious, and that's how you take damage on them. The background that they got going on for this boss, I really like it. And this, and probably all the other bosses, I would have loved if these bosses had their own levels, actually. That's one thing that they could have done to, like, expand the game more. If they had, like, a castle level leading up to Dino Mighty, or something like a water level where you have to traverse these rapids and, like, make it down to where Dual Dragon is. Or you're on this volcano, and you have to jump into the mouth of the volcano onto this metal platform, and you fight Red Brief J. You like the way I segued to the next world boss? Screw his two bosses before him. Let's talk about Red Brief J. The only thing that damages him is literally the lava. You can't punch him. And, like, you gotta, like, get him to tiptoe on the end of it, ground pound this metal thing, and then he falls into the lava. Like, but there's just something about him. I want more of this guy. Which then leads me to talk about his subordinates underneath him in the world. In Beanstalk Way, we have Spideractus. Apparently the speedrunners don't like this guy that much. I don't know. I like his helmet. He's pretty neat. I like him. You fight him on a web. You're slow on the web, which also leads to, like, I wish the level beforehand had something to do with these webs, because it added some sort of obstacle that you don't actually have in the level. It's only in the boss room. So I would have been interested in to see how that could work in a level itself. I gotta talk about this guy. This is Winter Winster. When I first played this game, I couldn't beat this boss because I chose not to. My brother would come in and help me. Winter Winster actually terrified me. I don't want nobody coming in Smash Brothers Wii U Luigi posing at me just to show that he has a big head. He's that Christmas level boss, okay? The Christmas level? This is the boss for it. And as terrifying as he was, when I got over it, my brother would, he beat it for me, and then I'll continue playing it. But later on, I had to buckle down, and I'm like, you know what? I gotta face him. I couldn't face him. I had to have my brother sit next to me while I faced him. When I was younger, he would do this attack where he stares at you, right? And when I'm playing the game as a kid, in my head, I'm like, don't stare at those eyes. Do not stare in those eyes. But recently, I streamed this game, and this is why I want to... I say recently, this is like a year or two ago. This is why I want to make this video. I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. Every time I get back to this game, I notice something different. Be it like some sort of, like when I realize the momentum that the game has. Like I realize how Brawl Doll reminded me of Chauncey. This was one of them. While when I was streaming this, I was reckless and I stared into the eyes. And then this happened. I kid you not. Never in my life, playing this game, did I know Wario gets inflated. I had no words for it. That if I saw that as a child, if that happened to me as a kid, I probably would have not come back to face that boss. If that happened to me after I got the goal to go like, oh yeah, I'm gonna beat up the Winter Winster by myself, like, that would have knocked all the confidence out of me. And then following this, the last bosses, I think I already commented on Mean MC. He's not even an MC, he's a magician. And like, he looks like Luigi, but British. And then you got Ironsider, which you got throw his hands to be exact. And yeah, he's alright. He's not who I would put as the third last boss, like the boss for the level before the second last boss. Like, he's alright. He does give me off like the Rock Hand boss vibes from Mario 64. I will say that. But after that is the pirate boss, Captain Skull, who shares some sort of similarities to like how Wario can like do the corkscrew jump to get across from stuff. Skull can also do that. And Red Brief J can do the shoulder charge. And Dino Mighty can ground pound. And the dual dragons can inhale you. This is not on script. There's some script to this. All the bosses have something Wario can do? What? I just checked the Wikipedia for his moveset. It doesn't mention that he does this spinning ball move at you. That ruins my hypothesis, right? Wrong! I just turned on my game. And he wasn't doing it. I kept throwing him everywhere I could think of. Wouldn't run back at me, bouncing in his Wario's corkscrew move, right? But then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna walk in his face. So I just stroll up to him with my Wario swagger. I'm just approaching him, right? And then he starts like charging at me, and he flings into a ball into me, and he flies off the stage. But he did it. I learned something new once again from this game. Every single boss has something that Wario does. And then after that boss, you just fight Black Jewel. Black Jewel's not that interesting. You get all the Snap, Crackle, and Pop Spriteling guys. Kind of like Jinjo them. Kind of like in Banjo, where Banjo has to collect all the Jinjos around. And then they all fly into it. And then the Jewel gets knocked down. Then you can do your mad move to the Jewel. Say when I was a kid is the Black Jewel, which it's not even black, it's purple. It's not the design that's bothering me. It's fine. I like the single eye. Tendrils are on. They could have done a little bit more there. With considering how the rest of the cast of the enemies were. I would have really liked a really messed up Nightmare. But it's an easy fight. And even when I was a kid, I found it really easy. So one of the other times when I started playing the game again, I found out something online. Japan had a different boss fight, which was a little bit more challenging. And I'm bothered by that. I wish we got that. That's it. That's all I gotta say about Black Jewel. Like, it's not even... They're not crazy. Something I didn't mention before, and I don't know where to put it, is all the collectibles in this game unlock something. When unlocking the statues, Wario gets half a heart added to his maximum life, right? When unlocking the treasures, what ends up happening is, the treasure square area where the Black Jewel's chest is, there's actually these 6 or 8 pedestals. And each one has like this question mark thing that spins on it. And when you collect a treasure, all the treasure in a single level, one of them will be unlocked. And they're actually little demos to the WarioWare Game Boy Advance game. And those would be actually the very first time that I've ever played WarioWare. I've never really played the Game Boy Advance game. So that was the first time I was ever introduced to that. Finally, the Spritelings. Depending on how many Spritelings you saved will actually change Wario's ending. They do a dance, and the ones that are missing will actually show up in cages and dance with the rest of them. But depending on how much you have, we'll give 6 different endings of Wario, because they rebuild his castle. And it could be as small as a throne outdoors to a big luxurious castle like he had at the beginning. And actually, and then some. It's even more treasure in that one. Really like to thank like the few Wario World speedrunners that I found that were very helpful about this game. I didn't have to think that there was anyone trying to speedrun Wario World. I didn't have to think, because logically speaking, there would have to be somebody trying to speedrun this game. It just makes sense to me. There's people out there trying to speedrun Sonic Schoolhouse. I was a part of trying doing that. But when watching them and like seeing how they maneuvered and did things, it really caught my interest. And I was asking them if I can use some of their footage, because the way they were scaling certain slopes or like skipping certain things was ideas that I thought were capable because of how Wario moves. Like, I could picture it in my head, but I just couldn't get it done. And seeing them do it was really satisfying. It's really cool to watch. And also, they make like the boss runs feel like an art form in itself. I'd like to shout out Nick and Prangle. You two were very helpful and insightful on like another way to view this game. And like I'm gonna put like the link in the description of like the speedrun that I found, but like from Nick. You guys should check it out. It's just really cool. Most of the impediments in the levels that I told you where you're stuck in a dome with somebody, you can skip. And like there's this one phrase that Nick said that made me lose my mind when I'm reading it. Let me read this quote, which, like, it just blew my mind, because it's an actual sentence. It just sounds funny. Angler Mangler can be done very quickly by pile driving a barrel buster at a magnitude of 3.8 directly underneath its shadow. It has the right amount of, like, specific detail and, like, no detail at the same time, and I just love it. And the fact that I do understand with the limited amount that I do know. And, yeah, no, so, like, shout out to you. Thank you very much for being so helpful. And, like, I don't know. This is just such a interesting game from, like, its aspects that harken to, other treasure games, such as, like, Stretch Panic, as I said. Like, that game was extremely weird. And this is the same, but it also has that Nintendo charm with it. Yeah, like, you know it's a Nintendo game. Or at least in my opinion, I can, it gives me that Nintendo feel, but I also just play it on a Gamecube, so. Of course it feels Nintendo, it's on a Gamecube. I don't know. I'm glad I finally approached this game. I just want to really express, like, how much this game it means to me. And there's a lot of people have those games that, like, mean a lot to them. A lot of them being from our childhoods and stuff like that. And I don't think nostalgia is a bad thing to view stuff with. But, like, this is a game that was made for kids from a different time. And to, like, expect it to be more is not something I'm gonna do. Especially when it's something that doesn't have to be. It really makes me appreciate the small things we have. Like, if there's anything else I could say about this game is that, like a kid from the 2000s who just really got into anime, and like their parent viewing them thinking, oh, this is just a phase. No. No. This game, what it left you with, is not a phase. That trauma is staying.